people will increase their savings. And once they increase their savings, they reduce their consumption. When they reduce their consumption, we begin to compete amongst ourselves to bring down prices. That is it. But in economics, there's a theory called the paradox of thrift. Silas Manner. You save so much, and the more you save, the less you buy. The less you buy, the less the demand. The less the demand, the less the supply. The less the supply, the less the employment. So, must you save? Say, no, okay, in the short run, because we are in a recession, spend more than you earn. That's what you see. The result of spending on palliatives is what has got America to 41 years. But if they didn't do it, and there was a recession and the economic collapse, what would have been worse? Is it better to have some growth and inflation, or to have no growth, low inflation, and unemployment? So I have 5 minutes more, so let me wrap up. So this is what is likely to happen to external reserves. We believe that external reserves will actually decline because we have to support the currency. This is gross external reserves, mind you. So I believe the central bank will do that which is necessary and bring it down even much lower than that. These are very optimistic projections. I think that gross reserves will come down to about $32 billion. To stabilize the foreign exchange market, you need to put about $7 to $8 billion into the market, at least $1 billion a month from now through the election period. That way you stabilize things. If you increase supply of foreign exchange, you increase output. At the same time, you push up interest rates, you increase savings. So you begin to get towards what we call dynamic equilibrium. But what you have today is static disequilibrium and playing with mirrors. So this is the exchange rate. We think that it's at 572 today, and the exchange rate for airlines is 444. It has charged 452, 444, so your tickets are becoming more expensive. Official rate on December 31st went to 435, and it's been going over and around. So yes, but it's, you see, Adam Smith said the invisible hand is the most efficient allocator of resources. But the hidden hand is the most disruptive allocator of resources. The hidden hand is when you do things arbitrarily, and you are the boss just deciding what you want to do. So I think that we are going to be shifting more from the hidden hand to the what do you call it, the invisible hand. There's a big difference between hiding and being invisible. If you hide, they can see you. If they remove the, but if you are invisible, you can't be seen. So these are just scenarios about optimistic scenario and negative scenario. $60, $120, and you can see the price of the parallel rate is, and this is 490. The other one is 590. Policy imperatives, we've said it. Budget is implemented. I've talked about this, so I'm not going to bore you. You have it all there. So the World Bank says business unusual. The IMF says reform, adjust your exchange rate, and then Fitch says there are limited space for no reform. But again, there are two elections this year, Ekiti and Osun. And that, from what I saw in Edo and Anambra, it's becoming infinitely more difficult to manipulate elections. And with Twitter and all of these things, it will be very interesting. So there will be no short supply of surprises. So I think that maybe because I'm a reformer and wishful thinking, I think reform will trump presidential, because it's only a question of time. You have to reform anyway. So I'm going to reduce inflation. Private investment, even if you reform from now to tomorrow, private investment will wait until they see what's going to come. Nobody's going to take a 12-month bet on Nigeria. You need to take more than that, because no investment returns itself in 12 months. Business environment remains fragile, but okay, fragile is better than failed. So we think that exchange rate mechanism, I've talked about that, will happen. Cost-reflective tariffs and electricity will happen. Subsidies will be removed either in February or the budget only provides it until June. So there we go. So I've talked about the sectors. Aviation. You can see aviation is competing, and this is air passenger traffic. You can see it. It went all the way down in 2019, and look at it. It's come up in 2020 and going higher in 2021, and 2022 will be much higher. Cement, you have Lafarge, Boa, and Dangote, all doing well. Nestle, Unilever, in food and beverage, Diageo, Nigerian breweries, Glo, Airtel, MTN, and all the others, InterSwitch, Visa, Momo. So here, financial services look for complete restructuring of this industry as the banks begin to struggle, but also reform at the same time. They will still make money, but there are two things that you have to look out for. Forbearance, restructuring the forbearance which expires in next month. 2, there must be no default on their international obligations, either for Nigeria or the banks themselves. Thirdly, how they restructure their oil and gas exposure. Because the fact that price of oil is at 80 does not mean that when it drops to 60, what's going to happen? We could be up the creek without a paddle. Risks, there are risks. Global sovereign debt default, unlikely. Higher consumer prices, right? Widespread unrest due to new COVID variants, not a problem. Growing risk of famine, not a problem here. Sharp fall in oil prices. I don't think it dropped that sharply, but it will drop. Inflationary pressures will resurface, but then it will be clouded by political struggles. And people won't care. They say, okay, it's the end. Just, you know what, where I come from, people say, carry go, just finish and go away. That's the attitude, and that's better. Will there be sovereign debt default? I don't think Nigeria will, because anyway, almost all the loans we are taking now have a moratorium that takes you into the next. Foreign trade payment risks? I don't think so. That's why we're projecting that the reserves will go down from 40 to about 30. At least $10 billion we used to settle all of these things. Autonomy of the central bank, questionable? No. I think the central bank will now become more autonomous in reality and in practice. They may have to move away from the unorthodox policies and have more orthodox. That's what's happening in the US. That's what's happening everywhere in the US. So the Central Bank of Nigeria will fall in line with the rest of the world. NNPC will become more, at least we'll see a little bit more of what they're doing. They're investing in refineries and all of that. So there'll be a lot of activity there, but people are going to be asking questions, and NNPC will have to open the books a bit more. Infrastructure risk. The point is that most of if these projects have to be completed, right? Infrastructure is more than promises, it's about delivering. Legal and regulatory risks, even the judiciary. You saw what happened with the NSAS report and all the other things. The people, you serve the people. People don't serve you. So that's what's happening. You can see everywhere, from Magodo to Dowen to people are asking questions. And everybody, both private and public, are having to be accountable. Like I say, you can fool some of the people some of the time. You can fool all of the people some of the time, but you cannot fool all of the people all of the time. So, will there be violent risks? The time between misunderstanding and violence will get shorter. Okay. Before, there's a lag between misunderstanding and violence. During election cycles, they become very close. There are people who do nothing else but to trigger that. Well, multinational oil firms are already divesting. So the land and swamp assets are being sold to Nigeria. So it's Nigerian risk. Then when you get to Nigeria, you begin to say, oh, where is the owner of this company? Is it from Niger Delta? Is it from... So, again, You can't zone pipelines. You have to. Yeah. So there are questions that are going to be asked. Intercommunal violence, yeah, but within the community, not inter. There will be intra-communal violence. Every time a traditional ruler dies and one has to, right? There will be battles, and all of that is tied to terrorism, banditry. I don't know whatever it is. We have security challenges, and they have to be. But the solution to security is economic liberation. So in summary, growth momentum was sustained. Inflation will remain structurally high with a full-year average of about 13.3. Disposable income and discretionary income, they are two different things. Disposable income will be low, discretionary income will be much lower. Gross external reserves will decline, take 39 more and put $30 billion. Government will increase borrowing, domestic borrowing, and adjust interest rates accordingly so that domestic institutional investors can save more and invest more. Markets are consolidating. Intensity of rivalry will increase between companies. Even though you have MTN and Glo and Airtel, they will not be able to gouge you. All they have to do is to be more innovative and offer you package, data bundle, this, that. The more you use, the more you pay, right? So, all right. So, marginal players will fade. There will be new initiatives and investments in the retail space, both in the shopping mall space, the e-commerce space, and all. And there will be greater flow of trade. Ethiopian Airlines reported yesterday that they became more profitable because 65% of their aircraft were used for cargo traffic rather than passenger traffic. Competition amongst private education institutions and private universities will increase, or whatever they are called. Major investments like Dangote and others will kick in and will help. Oil prices will remain stable, but remember, they will decline sometime in the year before the U.S. elections. In fact, next quarter, real GDP growth will remain at that level, even in 22, 23, much higher. Fiscal policy will be clouded by political considerations as people are exiting. But again, the more accountable government policymakers are, the more efficient the economy will be, and the better your well-being. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
So thank you very much, Mr. Rewani. So we'll just quickly move on to the next phase of the program, and I'll be inviting right here the Chief Economist of Coronation Merchant Bank, Ms. Chinwe Egwem. She'll be taking us, she's the moderator for today. Thank you.
Just one, yeah. Oh, okay, thank you. Oh, so good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Insightful nuggets, as always. Amazing presentation. So I'm going to divide this into two segments. There are some discussion points, and then questions have already come in from the virtual space. For those in the room, if you have questions, please get them ready. So the first question I'm going to ask is this. There's some level of optimism regarding the growth.
Optimism.
Yeah. Regarding the growth outlook of the economy. Given the fact that positive base effects are likely to dwindle, expected surge in COVID-19 infections, you mentioned in your presentation, slow vaccination rate here in Nigeria, and supply chain challenges still exist. Is it far-fetched to think that growth projections above 3% is too optimistic?
No, I hear you. The base effects, basically what are we getting? 2%, 3%. This economy had grown as much as 5, 6, 7% in the past. So what is the potential GDP growth rate is something like almost 8%. For you to actually reduce unemployment, you have to be growing at 1 or 2% above the potential GDP growth rate. Therefore, Nigeria needs to grow at about almost 10%. If you are doing 3%, right, it's like a student who has the potential of having 90% getting 55% and you're clapping for yourself. What we want to do, what are the catalysts that will bring about this growth? The catalysts are productivity due to ICT, new investments, right? But even sweating the old investments that were there, the level of gross capital formation, the level of savings. I made these assumptions basically on the fact that I believe that interest rates have to increase, whether we like it or not. Institutional money has to be focused on that. There will be orthodox monetary policy, and there will be convergence of the exchange rates. If we go with the old school that says that we're going to have static disequilibrium, then it will be the same, and you will see the impact on growth. Not 2022, but in 2023. There will be no new investments. There will be nobody. People will vote with their feet. As a matter of fact, there will be a net outflow of money. So if we did the right things, which I'm sure we will do, right? I'm confident that we have no. First of all, we don't have a choice. We are not going to be doing it because we are told to do it. We are doing it because we have to do it, right? So what you need is different from what you want.
Okay, but some may argue that pre-pandemic levels could not hit 3%, and before then we had seen at least 2 recessions. So what is it that would inspire us to do better now?
When you say pre-pandemic, we're talking about 2016 to 2018. In 2016 to 2018, there was so much uncertainty as to what exchange rate policy, interest rate policy, investment policy. We were mired in all sorts of things. But there was a period in that when we now adopted what you call the I&E window. We did some things, and we now began to see, it was just when we began to get out of it that the pandemic hit us. Now, so fast forward. Some of the things that we were supposed to do in 2016 that we didn't do are being done now. So the impact of that, and the fact that I think you have to realize that we are talking about the formal economy here. The informal economy is there, and the payment system. In April 2020, was it 2020 we had a lockdown, right? April 2020. First, on the 31st of March, I think it was, the president announced locking down Ogun, Lagos, and Abuja, which I think he closed the airports, closed the markets and everything. Closed the clearinghouse for 10 days before I came back. We saw, between April and May, we saw a surge of almost from 11 trillion to 18 trillion naira of payments in the electronic platforms. And we've seen a flat lining of checks under, you have a 10 million naira cap on any check. So ever since then, we've seen checks. We've seen cash in circulation stay statically at 4 trillion naira, while money supply has gone all the way to 48 trillion naira. If money supply is growing and cash in circulation is static, what does it mean? It means the payments are being done electronically. Also, we've seen the velocity of circulation of money increase. We saw productivity increase in the public sector when they were working from home. Level 1 to 14, all the way till November until NSAS, we are working at home. And yet the public sector's finances were balanced. They came into imbalance when the people came back. So the data tells you that the momentum of change is unstoppable. So I'm not saying that all of a sudden Nigerians have become extra productive, but the change momentum is now irreversible, and it's, whether we like it or not, even if you did nothing, the momentum will see you through.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So the next one is around oil price. It's currently healthy, above $80 per barrel. given its direct impact, its importance on the budget implementation, shoring up external reserves, SAC allocation, and of course exchange rate management. Where do you see it? I know you did mention it, but you didn't give us like a range or a level.
Well, when you look at the price of oil, you have to look at two things. One, if the moment the U.S. increases interest rates, the dollar gets stronger. Once the dollar strengthens, the price of dollar-denominated commodities come down. One. Two, Saudi Arabia and the UAE are having all sorts of problems. Saudi Arabia, I think the United States is fully aware that Saudi Arabia and Russia are the key to the price of oil. The Democrats know that it will be suicidal to allow price of oil to be above $70 in any way, form, or manner. So is price of oil determined geopolitically or by pure economic terms? I would submit that the price of oil is more a function of geopolitical arrangements than market forces. We all believe in market forces, but in reality, there's a blend. Therefore, it will be in everybody's interest to bring the price of gasoline, premium gasoline in the U.S. down to $3 a gallon or something. If that is to happen, one way or the other, the Iran deal, so, and in all of this, the reason why the price of oil is high is because we are holding back 5 million barrels. Now there's a new OPEC Secretary General who is not a Nigerian. So I think that the forces suggest that the price of oil could easily go to $60 a barrel. And if that happens, are the wheels going to come off for Nigeria? No. It only means that we have to be more efficient, right? And
Okay, good. I'm going to go into inflation. So headline inflation, we've seen a downward trend, and we've discussed this multiple times. And it really is on the back of positive base effects. But when in my team, we assumed a month-on-month inflation of about 1%. And using that, we saw that a reversal would begin in April. And 1% is modest, in my opinion, because of the potential subsidy removal. If that happens, that 1%, in my opinion, should be higher. So given the fact that we're going to see an upward tick in the headline inflation, which would then mirror what's happening in markets, how the first subsidy removal this year, the FGM plans to disperse 5,000 naira to low-income earners. Do you think this is enough to cushion the effect of the impact of this removal? One, do you think it's a good use of funds?
Well, again, let's go back to what happened in 2012. We removed the subsidy. I don't know how much it went to some ridiculous amount, right? And that means that there are three people that are actors in this economy. Number one are you and I, the consumers. Number two is the government. Number three are the firms. So you have that. So when you have C plus G plus I, you get national income. What you've done is to take money from the consumer and give it to the government. So who is a more efficient user of this money? Is it my money in my pocket or the government? At the same time, we want the government to tar the roads, they want them to go do this, they want to build schools. You can't have it both ways. But the government has to know that it has to be accountable. No? But having said that, in 2012, we took the money from the people, and what did we do? We put it in a bank account under the name of a company called SureP. SureP spent 12 months or 18 months drinking whiskey rather than doing anything. So it led to a near collapse of economic activity. So we saw growth and nothing. So the worst thing to do is to hand over money to a government that's incompetent. But, it's never if not now, then when? If not me, then who? So we have to buy the bullet. Don't forget that we are talking about only one commodity, PMS. Diesel today is 360 or 350. Kerosene is reflective of that. So what's PMS? It's important, but we shouldn't think that that's all. And let's look at it from macroeconomic perspective. 3 trillion naira is what we're talking about. The size of this economy, formal, is 160 trillion. 3 trillion naira is a drop in the bucket. Does it change anything? There are two elements of it. One is the psychology, and the other one is the fact. I faced that problem as the chairman of the minimum wage committee, and I said, look, the moment you announce wage, we had the announcement effect at Debo, Doji, this, that, and so. So I said, okay, we are not going to do this. How much is going into the pockets of people? We worked it out. So rather than say everybody, it was 60% from 18,000 to 30,000. If you did it the same way, you would have had 6%, would have run away from us. So we said, okay, those on 18,000, you get your 60%. Anybody above 30,000 will get one payment of 10,000 naira increase. If you're a PAM sec, you get 10,000. 10,000 as a percentage of your salary is, right? We did that. Then 1. 2, we looked at how much the total amount was, and we looked at how much was going in terms of injection without productivity. Then we went and increased the VAT from 5 to 7.5%. What we put in was equal to or less than what we took out. Guess what? No inflation as a result of that. So it's money supply. We put money in and we took it out. And the state governments, now everybody's fighting about who is collecting, who is distributing. None of them knew that this is what happened, because 85% of the VAT collected stays with the states. It's only 15%, 250 billion naira. The states are sharing about 1.7 trillion. So when I look at the drivers of inflation, you have to do this thing. If you don't do it, first of all, you will have some inflation. Let's not be afraid. But let's ask ourselves, Nigeria, it is 19 cents per liter, or 20 cents per liter. In Accra, it is $1.21 a liter. In Benin Republic, it's about $1.15 a liter. In Cameroon, what are the rates of inflation in all of these countries? If it is true that the moment you deregulate the price of PMS, there'll be inflation, how come inflation in Ghana is 11%? How come in Benin, of course, they have a different system, 2%. But here that we are subsidizing, we are having inflation of 15, 16%. So what causes inflation? Is it subsidy or? Thank you.
Thanks for that. I like that you touched upon the VAT hike. So the next question is, this imposition of 10 naira per liter excise duty on non-alcoholic, carbonated and sweetened beverages is one way the government plans to boost revenue for the 2022 budget. In your view, will this have a visible impact on revenue?
It will. It's called a sin tax. Because consuming sugar is supposed to be a sin. So, and I looked at data, I saw data the other day that showed that for the first time in the world, obese children are going to be more than normal weight children. When I look around this room, I don't see any obesity. So I'm not sure what we are trying to solve. But whether you like or not, we need to collect our taxes. But there are two elements. It's not just, it's 10 naira per liter. But 1 liter of Coca-Cola is not the same price as 1 liter of Origins or 1 liter of any other non-alcoholic RTDs, we call them ready to drink. So it is not 100 CL is 1 liter, right? Okay, so I don't know what the bottle of Coke, but that's about 150, right? So that you'll be paying 15 naira per that 100 CL bottle. But if the drink is 500 naira, you also be paying 10 naira for the 500 naira. So it is not an ad valorem tax, it's a specific tax. So it actually punishes the poor who are buying cheaper drinks. So taxes must have there are 4 canons of taxation according to Adam Smith. 1, it must generate revenue. 2, it must be easy to administer. 3 is that it should be equitable. The rich should pay more than the poor. And 4, poor. Then the 4th is that it should be neutral. It shouldn't distort the allocation of resources. But no tax ever meets the 4 canons, so you trade it off. So an increase in the price of petrol at the tank is regressive because the poor man pays that same tax as Aliko Dangote will pay in his car. And Aliko can only enter 1 car, he can't enter 2 cars at the same time. So we deal with that. Is it easy to collect? Very easy. VAT, excise, you just collect it, so it generates revenue. So it's easy to administer, it generates revenue, but it is not fair, and it also can distort the allocation of resources. People, once you bought that petrol or pay that 10 naira per liter of pure water is not part of it, mind you. No, it has to be carbonated. Then you would have, so there'll be some adjustments. But one way of doing it is, why don't you just tax the sugar people rather than tax the, right? It's like, if the guy is bringing cocaine into Nigeria at the airport and you say, okay, we will charge you when you are on the street where you are buying the cocaine, it would be easier to just deal with it, right? But first of all, I don't believe that sugar is a sin. And secondly, luckily we are not obese, so we don't have the problem. So if I live in the US, it's a different story. So,
but it's good to hear you say that you believe it will have a visible impact on revenue. Okay, so the next question really is, where do you see, or where does the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement fit into Nigeria's growth and development agenda?
Okay, very good question. Interesting too, because you see, people always created one administration in this country, we got GSM, we did that. Even if we didn't, would we have been able to do without GSM? Every country in the world. So it's not an achievement. It's just, we just complied with the momentum. What you see in the world today is that exogenous events, exogenous policies, what happens outside your country has a greater impact on your country, whether you like it or not, right? So we were the last to ratify the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. However, we want to be the first to benefit from it. We have the ECOWAS protocols. We have the WTO, which we have signed on to. We have the ECO as a currency, which we are told will become the currency in 2027. But there are some regional integration criteria that we have to meet before then. So the journey to the ECO in 2027 starts now. The impact of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement is there. It's up to you. You have to incentivize Diageo. You have to incentivize Nestle. You have to say, produce your Milo and your Maggi Cube here and send it across. However, if you argue too much, they will move their location from Shagamu and put it in Benin. And then you have to buy it here because you're already part of the. So what is it that you're going to do to incentivize your domestic producers as well as your international investors to produce here? You can't do that by saying the right things and doing the wrong things. You have to say the right things and do the right things. And you have to stop doing dumb things. So that's the truth. And so I'm optimistic. And that's why I said at the beginning that the legacy thrust will do more in 2022 than the vested interest groups.
Okay, thank you for that. So I have some questions from participants that are on Zoom. The first one is this: do you believe this government has the will and capability to implement what is captured in the budget?
Yes. Will is one thing, and the other one is the energy and determination. So that's a will. Will is that I want to pass an exam, right? I have the will to pass an exam. But then I have to understand that I have to read, right, and prepare. I also have to read at the right time. Okay. And therefore, then I have to be able to have the strategy to pass. So everybody wants to pass. But people who fail also want to pass, right? Okay. So the point is that Nigeria wants to implement the budget. Nigeria has a will. And the resources, the people that failed most when I was in school were people that their fathers bought them more books. But to open the books becomes an issue. So Nigeria has a lot of books. Nigeria has a lot of determination to implement the budget. We are at that point where we need to open the books. And not open the books and sleep over it, but read.
Okay. I like that answer. So the next one is, with organized labor threatening massive anti-subsidy removal protests, do you see the government removing subsidies on petroleum products?
You have to differentiate between rhetorics and actual. It reminds me, I was talking to some friend yesterday about Arthur Scargill in the UK and Mrs. Thatcher. Unions are paid to, and they must do that. And you can't blame them because there's a trust deficit. They've seen this happen in the past, and quite frankly, same old. The more things seem to change, the more they remain the same. So, yes, well, I think that we will remove the subsidies. In any case, we have no choice. So, it is a question of when and how. Are we going to do it once, or are we going to have a program, right? So, okay, you have to take these 3 Nivaquin, and when you take the first one, the second one, and your mother says that you didn't take it again, say, okay, let's go back to the doctor. We'll give him an injection, so you take it. That's where we are.
Okay. So the next one is, what are the investment opportunities in 2022?
The opportunities have been there and will remain here. But now, because of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, because of the big things that are happening in concrete, cement, building materials, concession of roads, concession of airports, I heard somewhere about I stayed away from it in aviation by in 90 days we're supposed to have Air Nigeria flying with the new aircraft and all of that. The nice song called Seeing is Believing, right? It's a beautiful song. So we'll see that. So there are opportunities. Opportunities are there. There are low-hanging fruits and high ones, right? And most of the low-hanging fruits are disappearing. There's hard work to be done. Hard work in the sense that you have to identify the opportunity and go for it. All along the value chain. It's not just sectoral. It's within that value chain. Okay. You want to process cocoa, you want to process sesame, cashew, cleaning of the cashew, right? The storage, post-harvest losses are a major problem. 40% of them. How? So why don't we invest in storage? Rather, so I don't have to go to Taminaka or wherever it is in Kaduna State. If I have a storage depot in Shagamu with all the silos there, when you want the goods, you can buy from there. Well, I charge you, I buy it in it, and then the rail, big opportunity right away. Cities move closer to where the rail are from where it is. So you are going to see massive real estate opportunities in Wakpalanto, all those the money and all sorts of places along the Iju, all those other places along the rail track there. Look at what's happening in Ibadan. All of a sudden, the principal of Lifeford said he had about 100,000 applications previous year, but once the rail started, applications went up to 500,000 because people now say, okay, I can put my child, right? Premier Hotel in Ibadan is now back in action. So people are now going to Ibadan. A lot of people have not been to Ibadan. People say, oh, no, I'm not going to. It's an endurance test to go to Ibadan. But now
you're seeing more engagement there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I want you to also speak on the power industry because it plays a key role with regards to this industrial takeoff where most of these opportunities lie. So what's your take on the power industry?
Yeah, honestly, it's a disgrace. 5,000 megawatts. You know, we couldn't light a candle, right, with that. You know, so it's an embarrassment to even. We are talking about power. This is a basic thing now. So tariff review, debt forgiveness for all this rubbish, recapitalize, convert it to equity, and the government can sell the new equity to new investors at whatever price. But then you get new investors into those discos and gencos and all that. But, you know, you have to do something different from what you have today. Right? But it's not a rocket science. Yeah. This is very basic.
Hopefully they do something about it.
You have no choice.
Yeah. Okay, so the next one is tilting towards subnationals. How can subnationals play a more active role to encourage inclusive output growth?
Subnationals are even playing a greater role today. If I put on television, I see some state governor in Owerri opening some dormitory as a project, a culvert in Port Harcourt being commissioned. Somebody commissioned a road to a mosque in Kano and all. Right. So there's a lot of hype, but if you look at state inflation, state unemployment, and state GDP, it's amazing that the states that have the highest government allocation are having the poorest economic performance. So why? Because it tells you again that the problem of management, there's a revenue problem, but the revenue problem is not as profound as a management problem. So, and what are we seeing? We are seeing state governors. People vying for state governorship now are becoming more professional. So the time, if you have a charlatan running your state, you get charlatan outcome. So. Okay,
so basically fiscal discipline is highly required.
Discipline is part of it, but you have to have the skill to manage. You see, I go back to my poll. Do I want to rule Nigeria? Do I want to serve Nigeria? Do I want to lead Nigeria? Do I want to run Nigeria? Do I want to run Nigeria? Right? And do I want to serve Nigeria came up top. Rule Nigeria and lead Nigeria.
At the bottom. Okay. So I'm going to ask one question before we take a short video. But this question is, what caused the sudden dollar depreciation towards the end of December and CBN's adjustment of the Naira to 412 Naira per USD? If I remember correctly, that happened the year before.
Yes.
Yeah.
So on December 31st?
Yeah.
Quite frankly, I don't. You see, we keep on looking at the exchange rate. What is more important is the exchange rate determining mechanism. We have no mechanism. You know, there's that theory that, or experiment that said that when you increase the light in a room, the output of the factory workers increased. Then when they darkened the room, the output increased again. And then they couldn't understand whether there was any correlation between the light in the room and productivity, right? So, quite frankly, I don't know and I don't care. The reality is that when we have an exchange rate determining mechanism that is clear for everybody to understand, then the markets which are efficient will begin to determine what it is. But right now, the reality is that the parallel market is saying it's 571. The official market is saying it's 430 or 433. There's some convergence. There's work going on. The reserves are there. I think we'll see. We are moving reluctantly but slowly towards an efficient market.
Okay, thank you for that. So we're going to take a video from the sponsor of this event now, and then after that, I will take questions from the hall. That my time is limited and I only have room for just 2 questions. So, okay, I see 1. Oh, I see 2, okay. Who's going to help me?
Good morning. I first want to, my name is Wale Smart. I work with NECA, Nigeria Employers Consultative Association. Very beautiful presentation, quite incisive, and I have a comment, then 2, I won't call them questions, but probably your perspective, Mr. Rwani, on those 2 issues. Because your advice, if I say advice, might put you on the spot. First, on the issue of fuel subsidy. I think the general consensus basically is, I think it's imperative we remove fuel subsidy now. Well, the conversation or the perspective of governments in communicating the reason for the removal has always been from the perspective of revenue. Yes, we'll make more money. Then what are the consequences of removal? If you don't address the consequences of removal on the employees, on businesses, then there will always be resistance. So we think there are creative ways to go about it, and we urge government to deepen its engagement with critical stakeholders, employers, and workers, so that we agree on a parameter that is agreeable to all parties before we go ahead and do the removal. Removal, imperative, and we think is the best way to go. Then my question, or what I seek your perspective on, is that how do we create a balance in such a way that will generate a semblance of inclusive growth between removal of fuel subsidy that will lead to normally increased revenue for governments, and at the same time might lead to reduced disposable income for employees. And if employees have less disposable income, their ability to buy will reduce, which might lead to increased unsold stock for businesses. And if there are unsold stock for businesses, it creates pressure on businesses on two fronts. One, you have stock that you are not selling, and naturally employees will come back and ask businesses for increased salary because there'll be pressure from the income side. Now government can bamboozle its way towards either going to borrow to meet the demand of labor in the civil service for increased salary. But organized businesses don't have that propensity, and their ability to borrow is not elastic. So how do we create a balance between all, I won't call it two-edged sword, because it's more like a four-edged sword now. How do we create a balance so that we arrive at something similar to close to an inclusive growth? Your perspective on that. And secondly, a short one.
Oh, wow. I can only take one from you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Do you want to respond to that?
I think one thing that, again, the complete misunderstanding of this deregulation. There are 118,000 trucks that bring food into Lagos every day. Yeah, 118,000 trucks. The NSAS would have told you when it shut down, remember what happened. The reality is that of those 118,000, I would submit that no less than 90,000 of those trucks use diesel rather than petrol. Now, and the price of diesel today is 345, 350. It was 190 at this time last year. Okay, and transport fares have gone up, but not significantly. So we are placing too much emphasis on PMS. The people that use PMS are people like Daly that came here with their Rolls Royces. So, yeah, they are the ones that use that are affected. You and I. So, I'm not sure that we have not overhyped this. The people that benefit most from the current price of petrol are those who are smuggling it across the border. All you have to drive is to drive from here to Ota and go all the way to Ezidiroko and see that every other plot is a petrol station. Who are the guys driving cars in those areas that are taking all it? The closer you get to the border, the more the petrol stations. So we are told that we use 72 million liters of petrol every day. The economy shrank, so the increase in the use and demand for petrol increased at about 15% per annum, while the economy shrank by about 5%. So obviously we're not using it, it's going out. So we have to address that. Then the other thing is that somebody talked about the 5,000 naira, 40 million people coming to 1.3 trillion. Is there a better way to do that? My personal view is that I would rather have a bursary system where every Nigerian student in a federal and state university, I don't know, but will have a bursary of a certain amount, maybe 250K, so that that parent will use the money to do something else. And those students, we have their matric number, so they go straight to the school and they attend school, and then, because if you tie it to medical, everybody will feign an illness and collect the money as well. So it's better you do that. When it was suggested in some circles, people say, but some states don't have enough students in the schools. Right, so it becomes another problem. But okay, then you can tie it to internally displaced persons and say, okay, those states that don't have enough schools. And therefore, again, internally anybody can be externally or internally displaced, but essentially what you're saying is that let the people, rather than subsidize fuel consumption, subsidize education, subsidize things, but then the whole imbalance between some states that don't have as many people in the universities becomes an issue. But there are ways that it can be managed, and I think that is being considered. Rather than just giving unconditional cash transfers of 5K, and then everybody disappears, and nothing happens.
There's one question. Yes, please ask your question.
That was the last.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ngozi Nzegu. I'm the CEO of Dugo Limited. I'm also a non-executive director of financial derivatives.
My boss.
Please, Mark, thank you very much for that profound presentation. No holds barred, as always. I listened carefully to the Minister of Finance, Zainab, make her presentation and her budget briefing last week. And one thing that resonated with me was the fact that she kept saying, what we have is a revenue problem and not an expenditure problem. And I was worried that with the kind of debt overhang that we have, how come we are not trying, or how come we are not deliberate about having a strategic plan on how to reduce the expenditure? How come the problem is revenue problem and not an expenditure problem? Why are we not cutting our coat according to our cloth? Why do you think she kept saying what Nigeria has is a revenue problem and not an expenditure problem? I thought the two go hand in hand.
Yeah. See,
Thank you.
Zainab is a great lady, and her role is to manage fiscal policy. And fiscal policy is about expenditure, revenue, and deficits. But economists go beyond that. Economics is a behavioral economics. So even if you give all the money to a drunken sailor, it's unlikely to find. What I'm saying is that in addition to a revenue problem, there's a management problem. How to manage our revenue to have the desired impact. It is not either or. It's not a binary choice. And I'm saying that the emphasis, as the Minister of Finance, the emphasis is on what stares at the face. Because there are 5 questions you ask in the budget. How much you're going to earn, how much you're going to spend, how much is the difference, and how are you going to fund the difference. And then the impact of all of these 4 on the economy. So those are the 5 questions I ask. It's a very simple process. Now, I think the answer is not in cutting the expenditure, it's how to fund it efficiently. And the reason why the debt service is high at the time when you are keeping interest rates artificially low. But it became a problem because the central bank all of a sudden somewhere decided to charge the federal government, after the complaints, 2% above the MPR for its overdraft. So the federal government is paying the central bank 13.5% per annum on its overdrawn position, which is in trillions of naira. And luckily, Chinwe and others, the banks are funding us with 27.5%, zero cost of a certain amount. So that creates a supernormal windfall, right, which is now being used for this. But after a while, nothing lasts forever. So I think that eventually the banks will say, come on, wait a minute, we can't be funding this, right? And therefore, again, liquidity is not equal to income. So what you're taking is, because the banks pay interest on these deposits, and then you pay them 0 for that. That's used for liquidity management because there's a strong relationship, transmission effect between high liquidity and prices, but it cannot be permanent. It cannot be permanent. So I want to take you back that there's fiscal and monetary coordination taking place, but it's not as effective as it used to be. May so rest in peace. I read of the passing of Chu Okongu yesterday, who used to be the Minister of Finance. And in all cases, you had Ngozi, not your namesake. Notice we had Ngozi was Minister of Finance and coordinating Minister of the Economy. There was very strong coordination in some of those era. What we are now beginning to see is we are now beginning to see alignment of goals and between monetary and fiscal policy, and then we are going to. So in 2022, you are going to see more of that alignment and more, coordination, right, of leading to more successful outcomes than you had in the past. So I don't know if I've answered that question. But
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing from your extensive bank of knowledge. Thank you for releasing insightful nuggets as always. And then to all the participants, thank you so much for paying attention. This is the end of our conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
An interesting session. We hope that we'll have you here again when we call on you. Thank you very much.
Definitely.
Chinwe, please wait. We'd like to invite Mr. Rwani again to come with Mr. Oshin. Ashiwaju, please can you join us? And representatives from First Bank. Mr. Benga, please come. And Osaho. Yes. Please wait. The reps from First Bank will join us. Move the Move it to the back. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry, please, Mr. Irwani, President and Ms. Egwem, please wait behind. Can we have members of EXCO please join? We'll make it snappy. Thank you. Okay, can we have council members please join as well?
Vote of thanks, which can be a bit challenging. I think first of all is to thank Mr. Bismarck Rewani, as usual, for a wonderful job. I think it's almost a staple of Nigerian economic environment that the year cannot start without listening to Bismarck Rewani. And as usual, he's given us a snapshot of our expectations for 2022. And I think the key for all of us is just to key in into some of the areas he has spoken about. Also to thank our moderator, Ms. Chinwe Egwem. Thank you for your usual support. You are one of us, and we do thank you for being there for us. To also thank our patrons. I think I formally recognize Ashwaju Makelolawale Cole, CON, who's here with us. Thank you, sir, for your usual support, and also other council members. This is your program, and thank you for being here to support us. The British Deputy High Commissioner is gone here to leave at 10:30. Also to thank Ben for being with us. It's a wonderful partnership. We are Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce, and it's always very nice to see the British part represented by the Deputy High Commissioner, always here supporting us in all our programs. From what we heard from him, Britain is quite bullish on Nigeria, so it's a key for all our members to key into some of the opportunities that have been mentioned about. Our sponsors, First Bank and Sovereign Trust, thank you for supporting us. We look forward to more of this support in many years to come. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, like they say, it's one thing to cook a meal, it's one thing for others to come in and enjoy it. So it's to thank all of you for being here to be part of this. For those of you who are physically present and also those who are online, I know we have a significant amount of members who joined us online. So it's really to thank you for being part of this program, which was really set up to give you a taste of what the year should be. And from what we've heard, it's a year to be cautiously optimistic. That, like what Bismarck has said, we have no choice. Reform is upon us. The key is just for us to embrace it and run with it. I cannot end without thanking the Programs Committee, headed by Mr. Wale Oshin. Thank you very much, Mr. Oshin, for a wonderful work. Wonderful work. I'm privileged to the program that they have for this year. So this is just a taste of what is going to come up. And they've really set the tone for what is going to happen this year. So, Mr. Oshi and members of the committee, thank you very much for your work. Well done. I cannot end without thanking the headquarters, headed by our DG. When I come in, I'm always so impressed by the touch of our DG in all the events that we do. So really, we really must thank you and all members of the headquarters for a work well done. Like they said, the reward for hard work is more work. You keep on raising the bar. So again, after what you've done today, again, the bar has gone further up. And in raising the bar is now to talk about the other forthcoming events that we'll be coming up with. I think the next flagship event for us is our National Conference and Exhibition, holding on Tuesday, March 22nd and March 23rd from 10 to 5 p.m. at Echo Hotels and Suites, Victoria Island. We are now living with Omicron, COVID, and all these variables. So we tend to go back to more of our physical events. So we'll be kicking that off with our National Conference and Exhibition. So again, just to give you a taster of what is coming up there, and again, to tell all our sponsors, start warming up. Space is fast growing in that particular area. It's an opportunity to come and showcase your services to a global world. So please make a note of that. We have our next generation series themed Pacemakers in the IT sector, holding on Thursday, February 17th. Like we said, we keep on looking at new emerging areas in the economy. So we have the next generation series Pacemakers in the IT sector on 17th. And I left the last one, is on the screen there, which is also Meet the Governor series. You can see from some of the questions that came up and what even Bismarck spoke about, in that we expect more innovation to come from the states. The subnationals are going to be the engine of some of the opportunities that we are seeing in the environment. And also note that once we now have the whole subsidy that might go, there will clearly be much more money in the states. So what we've done is to have a forum where we bring in the governors to come and showcase their states to investors and to our members. And I think it's been a very useful program to date. So we have the next one, which is Meet the Governor of Edo State, Investment and Business Opportunities, which is taking place on Thursday, March 17th. So it's now the turn of Edo State to show to Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce and its members what it has to offer if you really want people to go. We are seeing very nice competition among the states now. So you can see we now have the states all lined up. Everybody coming up and say, this is what we are doing in our state, and this is what our members should really come and do. On the back of that, for those of you who are not our members, you've seen a snapshot of what our members are enjoying and what they are getting from NBCC. So if you are interested in becoming a member of the chamber, please visit our website, www.mbcc.org.ng. And also, like I said, now that Twitter is back open, I'm sure there are many ways you can contact us, so we are quite glad and will be a beneficiary of that. So please follow us on all the social media handles to get a brief of all our activities. So it's really to say good morning to everybody. Our president has welcomed you. So it's at this point in time, man, it's just to say, please have a lovely day and wish you all a very fruitful 2022. Thank you very much.